I am Susie Wilson, and we came to this valley in 1960. 1960 was a very different time than now. The Civil Rights Amendment had not been passed. There was a lot of racism and sexism in all of the United States. But at the same time, many people kept coming, particularly to California, because it was a land of opportunity. And it was a land of opportunity for women, too. I was the president of the YWCA in the 60s, and we started working on the problems of racism and sexism, not only in this valley, but all across the United States. We made some significant strides, and we did things that people didn't do at that time, such as I chaired a committee that created a black business directory. We mimeographed a 500-page directory, and it assisted the black businesses so that others in the community could go and patronize them and take a bite out of the racism that existed in this valley. In 1973, women did not run and win in the elections. They usually licked the stamps or were called sacrificial lambs, which meant that they ran in races that there was going to be a loss to either party, and they weren't expected to win, and they didn't. But I ran for the San Jose City Council. There were 50, this was a seat, a specified seat, and there were 20 people in the race, 17 men and 3 women. And the movers and the shakers, the business people and those who understood government well, did not think that San Jose was ready for a second woman on the council because they had one token woman. Otherwise, it was white men, and the woman was a white woman. At the time, I take that back. There was one Japanese, the first Japanese in this valley to be in public office. His name was Norman Y. Mineta. He was the mayor of San Jose, and I think you now find his name on the airport for San Jose because he rose to the top, and that's what people did in this valley when they had talent. When I got on the city council, I ran to create a level playing field for women and for minorities. Didn't want to seek anything that I didn't deserve or that women and minorities didn't deserve, but I did want them to be able to compete so that they could show their talents. And I was successful. I helped the women of the police department who were assistant police women, did the same job but got less pay than men. And we broke that barrier, and they sued the city with my encouragement, and they became police officers. They were treated badly by the men, but nevertheless, they had the same pay and the same opportunities that men had. And that was part of my goal. There are other experiences I did that were similar to that in trying to level that playing field so that everyone could compete in this valley. I sometimes had to remind people that America is an immigrant nation. First, in 1492, the Italians came, then the Spanish, and then the floodgates, because immigrants came to this valley because they found an opportunity. They saw that they could compete. They could be whatever they wanted to be if they had the talent and the work ethic to do it. It didn't make any difference if you were dirt poor in the country you came from. You could work and be successful. And Norman Mineta, for instance, was in what we called a detention camps during World War II in the United States. And he rose to the highest offices in the U.S. government. That's what America is all about. That's what diversity is all about. That diversity is something that this, particularly California, but this country embraces. It's the only country in the world where you can rise and be accepted for who you are, not who your parents were, not how much money you have, but who you are. And no other country has that kind of an upward mobile society. And that's what our diversity does for us, because the brightest and the best come to this valley and to this United States like no other country. And as long as we can keep that diversity alive, well, then we'll continue to progress, and we'll always have a future. because because in this valley, the technology giants knew that they wanted the brightest and the best to come from all over the world, and so they reinforced the idea of diversity by bringing those people who wanted to come here and giving them the jobs and helping them success in their lives. It's all about seeing the possibilities of what individuals can do. Look at them as individuals and accept them as individuals. And that's what diversity in its truest sense is all about. It's a word that some people think they know what it means, but you have to really examine it closely to understand the full meaning, that it's all of us who are immigrants have gotten to do what we want to do in this valley. If we look at diversity as a problem, it's only because we're afraid and because we fear. Because if you don't look at the possibilities of other people, then you live in fear of losing what you have. And it's not a very happy way to go, and it's not one that's very productive for anyone. So we lose the fear when we decide to do what we want to do, and then we find out that everybody else is really pretty much like us, maybe just a different color or a different culture, but we all seek the same thing, which is good families, good jobs, and to be accepted in a society that is always upward mobile, if that's what you want to do. I wish that I had a one-line sentence for diversity, but I'm afraid it's going to take more than that. I have a rose garden with 110 beautiful roses in it. Each one is different. Everywhere I look, the world is diverse. Diversity should be nourished and admired and celebrated in human beings, just as every other unique creation of this universe is unique. We should never forget that diversity is the air we breathe and the people we see and the government that we establish, so that all of us can live and have the lives that are not only diverse but very unique.